Testing. We appear to be live. Mr. Miller, given the absence of a mayor and deputy mayor, I will turn the meeting over to you.
And he will turn it over to me.
All right.
As
Sorry.
per section
Apologies.
4733, item number 11, Robert's Rules of Order, in the absence of the chair and vice chair, the secretary shall call the meeting to order. I call this meeting to order, council work session at 6:00 PM.
Thank you,
Now I
Madam.
will turn it over.
That's
Thank
where
you,
that
Madam Clerk.
master municipal clerk designation comes in handy, correct?
I'm working on the master municipal. I am currently a certified.
Certainly proficient.
That should go on the resume, so thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, as Mr. Manager indicated, with the absences on council tonight, from a legal point of order under council's rules, I would advise that motions be brought to the floor to nominate a pro tem presiding officer for this evening. Once we have a motion and a second, a majority voice vote will signify the pro tem presiding officer that will preside over our meetings this evening. So,
Thank you, sir, and I will nominate Mike Denny.
Need a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion about the nomination? Voice vote.
All those in favor?
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Denning?
Here.
Ms. Fry?
Here.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Ms. Lomach?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield? Mayor Williams?
Move to excuse. Second.
We have a motion to excuse the mayor and deputy mayor, and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Manager, are there any additions or deletions from the agenda?
Just one item. Earlier in the week, Councilmember Fry requested potentially reordering the meetings of the work session and the regular business meeting this evening. If that's not necessarily, we certainly don't have to, but I just wanted to offer you the option. I'm happy to pull the work session items and tack them on to the end at the city manager's comments at the end of the regular business meeting. Actually, one of the reasons we had the work session up front was we were supposed to have a special presentation for the fire department today, and unfortunately, our participants were not able to make it this evening. So I don't necessarily have a pressing reason at this point to have work session up front, but just wanted to open it up for discussion. Otherwise, we can proceed as normal.
I don't think the catch is worth the chase.
Okay.
All right.
And then no further additions or corrections.
Okay. Chair will accept a motion to approve agenda.
So move.
Do I have a sec? Do we have a motion and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Manager?
All right, we will then proceed directly into monthly updates. I do still have the fire department first for an update on that, so I'll throw it over to Chief Miller as soon as I get my camera set up here. And he'll provide a short update on the goings-on of the fire department. So take it away, Chief.
Last Friday, Chief Robinson notified you we had a couple personnel injured down on
Can you
Linden
get
Avenue.
closer? Thank you.
There we go. We had a couple personnel minorly injured down on Linden Avenue at a truck fire. Happy to report, as of Saturday, they will all three be back to work. So they're all back to full duty come this Saturday. So thank yous for all the emails and calls that we received from the residents as well as staff on that. Beginning Monday, our new battalion chief will be starting in the fire department. We ended up hiring Scott Williams. It was in last week's weekly update, but he comes to us from the city of Dayton. Has about 27 years of experience, so he'll be part of the swearing in on October 3rd. We've completed the bay painting at Station 5, and we encourage the residents as well as staff to come and look at the efforts of the crew. CertaPro did the majority of the work for us, so our Riverside company turned out really nice. And we're also finishing up the HVAC installation at Station 6. So for updates, that's all we have.
What exploded? Your explanation was
It was a,
part of the engine or part of the truck?
no, it was a commercial vehicle, a dump truck. In the,
Okay.
what it was a suspension airbag.
Okay,
So there's 4 of them on the rear, but it's held together with washers and bolts. And it was the debris that come off of that is what struck all 3 personnel.
So basically a lift bag
Correct, yeah,
that is on the truck.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it
Because
was-
what I got was an airbag. and to
well,
that
me
was-
too. I was trying,
That
what
was- okay, they
exploded
were-
was,
Yeah, it was a lot heavier than that. It wasn't an airbag off the steering wheel. It was off the suspension.
When I read the email, it said an airbag.
Yeah.
And that's, so, okay, thank you.
well, thank you, and I was real confused because
That's what happens when you have the police telling
just
what
give me the
happened in
microphone.
a fire.
I was advised airbag, sir, when they told me originally. That's why it came out like
It's okay,
that.
Chief.
I promise.
We do thank you for keeping us
Yes.
updated. I do appreciate that.
and well, I just figured if it had been a fair fire truck, you'd have said more than you said, so.
Yeah, we don't have the money for that this time of year, so that's not wish that upon us.
Thank you.
All right, well, then we'll move on to the police department. I'll turn it over to Chief Robinson.
Let me pull this down. He's tall. Wow. If you remember correctly, I actually said to you, I think it was in the beginning of the year, last year, I talked about a wellness program that we were trying to embark on to get going with the police department. I'm really happy to say that we're currently in the midst of that right now. We were actually sending all of our personnel out to get a wellness checkup, if you will, with Carla Urbanus, and so Carla really actually just deals with first responders mostly, but she does, a lot of other things as well as far as the therapist goes. And I actually went there last week. It was my turn in the therapist chair, and it was very informative, and she does a very, very good job of what she does, and I'm looking forward to working with her in the future as far as, for years to come with her. I think the officers are really going to enjoy that. We're actually going to send everyone, including our property room person and our clerk and my half a person that I share with this guy. We're going to send her as well, just so we make sure everybody's okay. And I think that's a good start for the wellness program. We can continue that in the future. So we're excited about that. It's working out very well. Let's see. New cruisers. We've had a lot of problems with cars. One of them still is not working. We have the last 3 that we got, it's still having some issues, so we're still trying to work that out with that one particular vehicle. We did order 3 other vehicles. They are in. One is down at P&R getting upfitted currently. Then the other 2 will go right behind that. So I'm anticipating that we're actually going to get that car tomorrow. And then probably going to get another car for the next 2 weeks. So it's going to take us about a month to get all 3 of those on the road. So we're looking forward to that because I got to be honest with you, it's expensive. These cars are so old right now. We're spending a lot of money repairing them. And so this is really going to boost us a little bit as far as that goes. So we're looking forward to that as well. I remember last year we didn't get the STEP grant last year. We got the SHEP grant, which is different, but this year we actually have gotten the STEP grant as well. So that's another $12,000 that we can use for traffic enforcement. So we're looking forward to using some of that. We just got to get our folks out there and get them motivated. I've been doing this a long time, but I've never used $12,000 in 1 year doing traffic enforcement. It's just hard to do. But we're going to push it. This month, we continued our partnership with, signed a MOU with the SWAT team from Montgomery County again. As you know, we do have 2 officers that are on the team. One is a team leader, and so we're going to continue that as long as we can because that does benefit us because we have team members on the team. Whenever we have an issue with SWAT, they're readily to come available for us. So instead of us getting what we have on the street now, we'll get 10 or 15 more people to come out there to help us do what we need to do. Last thing I want us to talk about is I had a whole list of things. Don't wait till, I'll give this to you to update tomorrow because it's a lot of Nick Toscani, and, he just does all kinds of things. It's wonderful. So you'll see those tomorrow. But our newest officer, Maggie Schroeder, I have to say she's now in the phase 2 part of her FTO training, and she's doing fantastic, and we're looking forward to her getting out on her own because I think she's going to be a good one. So we're looking forward to that as well. So that's all I have.
And the good news is, I believe that means we only have one vacancy in the officer pool, correct?
That is true, and we're hopefully that we got a lateral that's looking promising, so we can be able to fill that relatively quickly.
Did I understand you, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Good.
Did I understand you to say $12,000 for traffic control?
Traffic enforcement, yes, ma'am.
Can we get the thing we used to put out on Harshman that told people what speed they were going?
It's not for that. It's just to pay salary for officers to be on the street writing citations and so forth.
Can we get that thing back?
We can,
We'll look at how best to do that.
yes.
I mean, we still have it, and it's not broken,
Well,
and
there is some issues with it, yes. So we have to get that taken care of, and when we do, we can get it back out.
I just think we need to do everything we can.
I'm with you, 100%.
And if we've got it, let's fix it, and, because, I don't know, people tell me that they don't know the speed, but it's posted, but maybe everybody else is using reminders, so
I'm with you.
if we put it out there.
I'll use as many as I can
For 1 week, we
get.
put it on one side of the road, and the next week on the other side, and make people aware that,
Right. We put out a lot with, when people make the call in and ask for it to be in a particular location, we would 100% take it out there and let it run until it doesn't run anymore and go get it. So I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. If I had more of those, I'd use every one of them.
if you could, sir, look into it, I would appreciate it very much.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you talked, and Chief, I want to say, and I said this before, when you brought it up the first time about the wellness program, I can't thank you enough for looking into that, and as so wildly important that we're offering those resources to our staff. I mean, especially in public safety, your jobs are not easy. Like, I sit behind a desk all day. I couldn't imagine the mental stress that your staff, the public safety staff here at the city has to go through. So first off, thank you so very much for giving that resource to our employees. Question I do have, though, is there a possibility of that being expanded like citywide, or is that specific to our public safety?
They're negotiated.
So the specific program, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but this is a specific program for first responders and it's more geared toward police and fire.
Yes.
And these are specialists who are able to, or who have some expertise generally in handling issues that police and firefighters typically run into more often than other staff.
Okay.
We do have an EAP support program for other staff that all the other staff can access. It's fairly generous. I believe it's at least a minimum of 6 appointments that are covered, and then options to continue after that as well. So we do have options for all of our folks
Right, perfect.
to make those connections.
Yeah. And I want to just make sure that was out there, because I mean, mental health, while there's a very unique need when it comes to public safety, I mean, but it doesn't discriminate. Everybody goes through stress. Numbers are hard sometimes, Kim. Like, the law can get confusing, Jim. Like, going to coffee with people can get hard, Josh.
It's very difficult. It's really difficult. I get wired, you know.
So, I mean,
Can we include council members in that stress?
100%, I would say.
Just take a look at my phone.
yeah, but, I don't know, to tack on to anything, to bring light into this, like, kind of serious topic, I mean, it is important, but thank you, too, so very much for making that a pressing issue in the city, and it means a lot. I'm sure your staff really appreciates that.
I agree with you.
We'll move on to Ms. Moore in the Service Department. And I do have a presentation, actually. I shouldn't neglect my duties here.
Thank you, Josh.
Beth did prepared an excellent PowerPoint presentation that I don't want you to miss.
I might be out of line compared to police and fire, but I'm used to giving myself prompts of what to talk about. So I've been here, it'll be 2 months, Monday, and taken a couple months to wrap my arms around everything, and just thought it might be good just to kind of talk about where we are and my strategy for how we move forward. So, next one. Kind of how I look at everything is what core functions do we perform? And we divide it up into 3 buckets: roads, stormwater, and parks. And so we try to fit everything in those buckets to help us focus on our mission. Go to the next one. Components of what I think would make a successful public service department. I think this is across the board, no matter what municipality I've worked for. It starts with the people. And we really have a great team of talented folks. The second piece I look at is our fleet, right? The vehicles we have to do our job. And our fleet is newer, so I've been thankful to inherit the fleet we have. Equipment and tools. We have a lot of expensive stuff to do our work, but we do have the tools to do our job, so that's great. Our facilities, where we are, the service garage, the sign shop, and then a couple residential garages. So I would say our facilities are tight. And they're dispersed, which kind of leads to us not being as efficient maybe as we could be. One of my big focus areas is standard specifications, and this is more than just saying ODOT everything. And Josh and I have talked a lot about that. We're going to try to use the Woodman Corridor project to really hone in on those specifications for roadways, sidewalk, curb, gutter, aesthetics. You don't always need to go as tough as ODOT builds highways. There are other ways you can do it, but we need to really dial those into what makes sense for us on what roads. And then I think another big missing component that we have is really formalized processes and procedures. So for everything we do, from how we do work every day, to how we interact with the public, to how we approach right-of-way work, we are always putting out fires, and my goal is to get ahead, have a plan, have a procedure. Every situation's unique, but at least we have something to fall back on, so we're handling situations consistently. Well, that's we got a lot of moving parts on that piece. At the core of what we're responsible for, it's assets. And that phase of asset management, it's cyclical. It's planning, it's acquisition and deployment, the operations and maintenance phase where the guys come in, and then disposal. So in disposal, we have quite a few assets that might be beyond their expected useful life, right? When an asset's reached the end of its life, it's due for replacement. So I think our biggest challenge is connecting those phases of asset management where your capital plan has to match your budget, has to match your maintenance staff needs, abilities. So I think connecting all those dots is really, that's going to be one of my biggest focuses of how do we align all those so they make sense. And what do I like most? I like data. So I think, and the public deserves data too. So my goal is to gather data through our work order system, iWorks, and make decisions based on data. We need all of our assets inventoried. We don't have them all inventoried. We don't have every road mile inventory, every sign, every signal, every piece of park equipment, every catch basin, every manhole. So part of it is knowing what you have, having that inventory, recording and documenting all maintenance on it, and then assessing the condition. So you know when is it the right time for you to make good repair versus replace decisions. So we're going to be focusing on our assets. Our team, do we have the right number of people? Are we training them with the right skills? How would we be organized to be most efficient in keeping those 3 core functions going of roads, parks, and storm? And then what do we do in-house versus what makes sense to contract out? And then that third piece is really just putting that plan together, putting together the programs and the schedules to, number one, maintain the assets we have, and then two, make sure we have standards, processes, and procedures for building the new assets, and then take that to meet the expected level of service. So what level of service do the citizens want? What's the expected useful life of those assets? And then how do we put those into a maintenance cycle and plan for replacements? Oh, just a quick, I know everybody's interested in what capital projects we have going on, so just a quick update on that. So spinning phase 1 is basically complete. We have a few punch list items. Spinning phase 2, there was an issue where the wrong catch basins were delivered, but what was supposed to originally be a 6-week delay is not. The new ones are expected to be delivered Monday, so they should remobilize next week to finish up spinning phase 2. Irvin paving project, full swing. 201 should be done this week. They should be jumping over to 835 next week, and then the week of the 25th, they'll do 202. Harshman, the Beatrice Valley safety improvements, we are just in stage 2 design. So that one's a way off, but we've been in a lot of meetings with City of Dayton Water. They have a water booster station right there on that corner where the new signal's gonna go. So working through the details with that, had a lot of good meetings and a lot of good collaboration. So I think that's going fine. And then our own service garage, our sanitary tie-in, the bids are coming in next week and we're hoping for some good ones. So that's kind of a wrap on the capital project. So really, that's everything we have going on, at least that I've figured out in the 2 months I've been here. There's a lot more going on, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I will have to say, I drive Brant quite often, and it is looking awesome. And so pass that on, that there was a lot of growing pains while the water lines were going in, but now that that's done, Brant is looking phenomenal. So I think that it was well worth it. And I would much rather do it after they get the water lines done than to have it done and then they go in and put holes in our brand-new pavement.
Right, thank you.
Second that notion, but on phase 1 of spinning looks amazing too. So much better.
And then the other question is, have we put up the information of why it was delayed on any of our web information?
It's going up, yep. it's
Okay,
going up.
because there were all kinds of
Yeah, I asked that earlier. in the
complaining,
week,
and I
because
just need to
people
make
wanna
sure
know
that
why
we're
nobody's
getting
doing
all the
anything.
Right.
plus information out there so that people understand why.
Right. I think it's important to know, a contractor's never gonna pull off of a job unless there's a really good reason, right? Because they make money by staying mobilized.
And we understand
Yeah.
that, okay? It's
Right.
just when the people are out there going, well, what are they doing? They cut all the curbs out and they did all this and now they're stopped.
They
What's going on?
disappeared,
So the fact that, they got the wrong parts and we had to wait, so they went someplace else until the parts came in. But the fact that they're going to actually start back up early is a plus for us, so.
Yeah, and we, I
And-
think for our part too, we'll try to stay on top of messaging as we go forward. But one of the wrinkles in this particular case was there was kind of a question mark about how long this was
Yeah,
going to
and
take.
and I get that.
And so, but once we had that ironed out, now we're at a place where we can actually, I just didn't want to issue something that was kind of a, well, for the community.
No, and-
But I hear you,
yeah.
and we'll stay on top of it,
Yeah.
And
And we can always blame it on ODOT, right?
Sure, found it or not, why not?
Speaking of the ODOT, there was no mention of the bridge on 35 and the completion date. And have we signed over from ODOT? And
We have not. We're still working on some punch list items with the signals. So as far as I know, we had shared a tentative ribbon cutting date. I have not heard anything different from them, but I've also heard no details.
Well, I might like to ask that some research be done in the fact that the lighting is not going up on the bridge, as this council voted to do that some years ago. And I'm understanding now that it's not going to happen,
Well, and I've already
So-
communicated pieces of that, and I'm happy to help, continue.
because
That
this council
conversation.
did decide to spend the money to put lights on the bridge, and they're not there.
Right. And like we talked about in September of '22, there were issues as part of the procurement process with the bridge where ODOT basically said we would be on the hook for any additional lighting costs.
And this
Well,
council
understand- This
council
voted
does
not,
not-
And
and we
council
voted
voted-
not to do the extra, but to
Correct.
make sure that the infrastructure was there so that we could put it back up at a later, put it up when we found the correct funding.
That's
Correct.
correct.
And this council voted on that also.
Correct, in November of that year.
Yeah, as I understand, all the conduit needed for future placement of lighting, if council so chooses to do that, all that conduit was built in place in the structure.
Right, and the foot that we can put the
Yes.
poles up on is all in place.
Yes.
So we just have to buy the poles and lights and, okay,
Well,
thank you.
as I recall, I thought the decision was otherwise, so I would like that research, please,
I'll provide it.
because I understand that we voted to do it. Maybe, I don't miss many meetings, but maybe I missed that meeting.
No, we did, it was going to cost us.
$200,000.
Like
I
200,
understand
no, it was
full
going to
well.
cost us more than what we thought. And so we decided to wait but to get the infrastructure put in.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else?
Yes, absolutely. Did Josh help you make that presentation at all?
No, I made it and I
Because-
sent it to him this afternoon.
I hired the
Because-
right people. She
Because
did a
it was
great
like
job.
tailored to like, how long have I been talking about this? 3 years, Josh? It spoke to my heart. Could you bring up the asset, the circle one?
Yeah.
I'll say Josh sprung me loose and let me do my
I-
thing, so I appreciate that.
So you, I could like use this at like when I'm consulting with clients because this is beautiful and this is
I'm
a
happy to
visual
share.
of what kind of I talk to all the time. And then this is, Kim and I have had this conversation a multitude of times. Josh and I have talked about this, and it's really refreshing to hear that this is being brought to the forefront. There was a situation a couple years ago where the council got sprung on. It was a couple $100,000 piece of equipment that like just, oh, by the way, it's broken, right?
Backhoe.
Track hoe, right. And I'm like, I've never, like, this is stuff that we should be budgeting for, that we should have known about, that, like, hey, this thing is, like, on its last leg, let's start, like, finding a way that we're going to be able to buy it if we need to replace it, right? And it's not a secret that we do more with less as a city, and the only way you're able to, like, leverage the capital that you have and the assets that you have, not just money, but the physical items that you have, is by executing exactly the plan that you have in here. And I know that Kim has been hard at work and Josh has been hard at work at this, and I appreciate you so very much for making this a priority. But I can't wait to be able to see, and for us as a council, to be able to see broad spectrum, just not within your department, but all departments within the city. What assets do we own? What condition are they in? What's the useful life? And what's in the 5, 10, 15, 20-year forecast of what we're going to need to be purchasing for capital or like fixed asset improvements. So thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
bringing that up.
Yeah, just one quick note. I mean, I think that I do want to spread some of that love around, because I think when you hear Chief Robinson talk about cars or Chief Miller talk about fire trucks, of course, it's the President's service. We've had the conversations about other departments and other operations. This is one of the reasons why Beth is a great fit for us, is because she shares that same mindset. And so it is a process, it does take time, but we're trying to get the whole organization on the same rhythm about thinking through and thinking ahead to address these problems, so.
Yeah, and they may get cars and trucks and salt, but they need software. So, and sometimes it costs as much for that as it does for a couple of cars. So, but if we can make our folks more efficient and it makes their jobs easier, I think, and we think ahead about it, I think that's a positive for everybody and a positive for the city. And that'll give us the funding to put the lights in.
All right, that's it for department reports. We can move into work session items. So the first thing that I'll bring to your attention that's on the agenda for that is just a quick discussion about golf carts and underspeed vehicles. And
It's not this meeting.
I'll say that the intention for tonight is kind of similar, if you'll recall, a couple months ago, probably, when we had our initial conversation about the do not knock and solicitors, canvassers. I'm kind of after the same sort of spirit here this evening. So that is to say, earlier in the year in particular, I think we had some residents, we often have calls related to golf carts, underspeed vehicles, those sorts of things. And I know that that was an issue during the summer in some neighborhoods. And so I think the purpose of tonight is just to get some feedback from you all about what we've been hearing and what kind of your reaction is to that. Chief, I don't want to steal your thunder, though, so go ahead and maybe if you can talk a little bit about the kinds of things you've been hearing, how that's a pinch point for your folks, and maybe what we can do next.
Well, I just heard, matter of fact, I just heard before I got here, there was a golf cart had driven over to the Kroger. So, so obviously, there's a push in a lot of communities right now to have golf carts that can drive on the neighborhood streets. And what that means basically is anything is 25 or below they can drive it. A golf cart's only supposed to be driven at 20 miles an hour in the first place, right? That's supposed to be the max speed. That's where the lower speed comes. I think with what we put together, I'd like to say that Mr. Miller did all the heavy lifting on this. I provided him with some info when he did all the heavy lifting, so I appreciate that. But basically what this is giving us more of a way to enforce the laws. Because, the state of Ohio has this. They've had golf carts weekend driven in the state of Ohio since, I think, 2017 is when they first said, we're going to put something in the ORC that's mandating what you can drive: snowmobiles, low-speed vehicles, golf carts, all those kind of things are in the ORC. So obviously, the state gives us, as a city, the ability to go in there and then pick and choose what we want to put into our code. But we still enforce the laws that are on their books as well. But these are just more, I guess, filed down to what we think is going to be important to us. I don't think there's an abundance of golf carts like that or any other vehicles like this in the city. However, we would like to, as a police department, we would like to be able to go, okay, we have these rules and these are the laws about it. And I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things that are just like a motor vehicle. I mean, they all have to be all the lights and bells and whistles that you have on a car, you have to have on a golf cart. Same thing with the driving age, it's exactly the same. So it does help us. So when we get that call that says, hey, in my neighborhood, there's a 12-year-old driving this golf cart, we can go over there and stop them, and we have now some legal way that's ours in the city of Riverside, not the state of Ohio's, to be able to go, hey, this is how we're going to enforce that law. And so I think it's important for us to look at that, and if we are going to do it, and if there's something that you guys choose that you want to go forward and say, okay, we can drive these vehicles on the street, obviously the laws are, in reference to speed limits are very important. And also, when you think about the vehicles themselves, we're actually going to do the inspections at the police department. So we'll be able to monitor that as well. We'll be able to keep track of those. Not like it's a big brother, I'm just saying we'll be able to know who has the golf carts and if they're inspections and when their inspections due, that kind of thing. And hopefully we can be able to reach out to them at some point and tell them, okay, your golf cart inspection is due now. There is a fee that's written on the inspection form. That's something that you'd have to decide whether you wanted to have a fee or not. There are things that we do that we don't have a fee. So a lot of those things that we do for peddlers and things like that, we don't have fees. So if you wanted to go that route, that's fine too. We're not married to that at all. We'll just put that in there because that's what other places are doing at this time. So.
The main idea, Chief, if I can weigh in here a little bit too, and actually Jim, if you don't mind as well, is that if I recall correctly, the way the code is currently written, there are very, very limited instances in which you can take these vehicles on the road currently. It's basically to cross streets, correct?
Right. If you're on a street that's, you're 25 or less and you're driving your golf cart, you can go across a main street that's have a speed limit of 50 miles an hour, but you have to maintain that lane and go straight across that street and stay in that 25 mile an hour zone.
But even in like even like right now, if I had a golf cart, could I drive it down my neighborhood street? I don't know that you can.
So the revised code only provides authority for state routes, county roads, et cetera, local streets. It's left explicitly up to the council to pass an ordinance to even authorize an underspeed vehicle
Right.
to drive on the road. So I think the problem that I had heard from Chief's Department is the BMV doesn't know what locality you're in, what the rules are. So the BMV, it's legal to license a golf cart, a snowmobile, an underspeed vehicle. And so they don't ask where you're going to drive this. It's up to the driver. It's incumbent upon the driver to observe the laws of their locality. So what Chief is suggesting is a way to help his department to be able to have some local control when there is a complaint of, someone's driving a golf cart up and down my street. Is this be a new scenario? So is this allowed? What can be done? It doesn't look safe. Then the Chief's department will have resources, a code that is enacted by this council that will be specific to the city of Riverside, and the city can determine what parameters and what safety, what speed, what other kinds of parameters the city would like to see on the operation of these vehicles, if at all, and provide a little bit more clarity and guidance to chiefs, officers, when they're out there on the road doing road patrol, to ensure that there's a clear set of laws for residents to follow. Helps residents, too, to know what they're permitted to do and not do.
Would this specifically apply to just golf carts only? Because in my particular neighborhood, I don't really see golf carts, but I see a ton of four-wheelers and mini bikes going up and down the streets.
I don't think those are included, are they?
Four-wheelers, mini bikes, electric bicycles,
Scooters.
giant lawnmowers in the street.
So if I may, Chief,
Go ahead.
that is part of the local control that's so beautiful about the way the revised code is written, so that it defers all those types of decisions to a legislative
Council.
body. So mini bikes, it's defined in the revised code. I mean, all those terms are defined, and council is able to pick and choose what, if any, it determines to be safe and appropriate on the city streets.
Yeah, that's what's in our neighborhood.
Mhm.
These big lawnmowers that
So-
do my yard in 2 sweeps.
So I want to just clarify, the Ohio Revised Code, in the ordinance, it looks like it's 16 years of age. The Ohio Revised Code for low-speed vehicles does not list an age that I'm seeing. And it looks like on Section 3 of Ohio Revised Code 451121.214, it says, "No person shall operate a motor vehicle or motor-driven cycle or motor scooter upon any street or highway having an established speed limit of greater than 45 miles an hour." The motorbike or motorized bicycles, which is 4511521, sets an age limit saying that the person is 14 or 15 years of age and holds a valid probationary motorized bicycle license and has passed the test provided. So the Ohio Revised, I mean, just to further clarify, it's streets, period, as long as they're under 45 miles an hour. That is allowed in the Ohio Revised Code from what I'm reading. And then the age limit for motorized bicycles is 14 or 15 years old. That's kind of a weird way of phrasing that, but my father-in-law lives in a neighborhood in Northridge, and there's kids who travel back and forth from, it's a bigger neighborhood. I don't know if there's something similar to, there's some neighborhoods that are similar like that in Riverside. And, I mean, they go back and forth to their family members down the street. I guess I'm looking for more clarity on, if someone's driving a golf cart recklessly, that's reckless driving, right? Or that would be
Sure.
some type of existing, violation they would have. If they're blaring music from their bike, or they're golf cart or if their moped is super, super loud, that's a noise disturbance that we already have in our code. So
If they're
I-
under the influence, still
Correct.
driving.
So
influence.
I'm just like, I'm a little curious on like what this is solving that our existing codes do not already like lay out in place if someone's reckless or endangering others by them operating a motor vehicle on a city street.
So again, I don't want to step on your toes, Chief,
Go ahead.
but again, the revised code does not speak to the authority of the traveling public to operate motor vehicles. And there, in Title 45, there's all these different definitions: moped, motorized bike, mini bike, snowmobile, motor vehicle. They're all essentially motor vehicles. So the Ohio Revised Code does not provide specific parameters and impose them upon local government entities, municipalities, in terms of what will be permitted, if any, to be operated on the streets within the local governmental control, so your city streets. That being said, the umbrella term for all of these are motor vehicles. So as Chief indicated, all the same restrictions and rules within Title 45 exist for, we'll just say a golf cart for an umbrella term. So reckless operation, assured clear distance ahead, reasonable control, OVI, all of these would still count. Noise ordinances, ensuring that you're operating at a reasonable manner pursuant to the weather, road, and traffic conditions. So all of that applies. The revised code's theory behind this was it doesn't know every single municipality within the state and how the municipality operates is set up, how the road system works. So it wants to give that local control to the local government to, one, determine if it even wants to allow them in the first place, and then two, to make very specific determinations about what is safe and appropriate for the operation of those types of vehicles. So it expands the city's authority to put specific laws, ordinances in place to control the traffic on those streets within the city.
For instance, 25-mile-an-hour streets instead of 45-mile-an-hour streets.
Correct.
And so right now, we don't allow golf carts or anything other than cars on our streets. So what this is doing is allowing golf carts that are street legal to be driven on residential streets that have a 25-mile-an-hour or less speed on them. So
That is not true, because.
that's what this is saying.
Well, because on my street, and the whole issue with this whole noise and speed and other than vehicle things is the police have to be there when it happens. I have crotch rockets that go up and down my street 24/7. It's 25 miles an hour, and they're flying down, and they're louder than you can believe.
Well, they still have to obey the speed limit, don't
And
they?
it's at 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, doesn't matter. We can't do anything if there's not a policeman there. That's
Right.
my issue. So we put rules in effect. If we don't have staff that can be
Well,
taking care of that
agree.
stuff, then don't have the rule.
Chief,
I
correct me if
understand
I'm
that.
wrong. If if one of your officers responded to a complaint such as Councilwoman Lomatch is describing, and they had indisputable video evidence, would that be something that you'd be able, like one of your officers would be able to hypothetically, like, pursue action on?
The officers know where they live, they know what's going on, and they can't do anything about it if they're not there to see it happening. And they're not there at 1:30 in the morning.
Well, if I can jump in here real quickly, I think that, because I want to make sure we're staying on track. So I think there are two elements to this conversation, not unlike fireworks. On one element, there's a policy question, which I think is what I'm trying to fish for here tonight a little bit. Because if you look at sections of the code as it's written now, yes, I think it's 377. the definitions used in that section are a little bit different from the ones Mr. Miller proposed, in part because of this linkage with ORC and everything else. But you can read that section, I think, to fairly interpret that under no circumstances right now, according to our code, is any golf cart supposed to be on any street or any similar vehicle. The enforcement of that is a separate question. But I think part of what we are asking you this evening is, knowing that, in fact, in some neighborhoods, folks drive golf carts, are you interested at all in changing that policy? Because and I think what we're recommending here is if you are, we would recommend that you go ahead and, if you are interested in allowing golf carts and similar underspeed vehicles, I think not to speak out of turn, but the drafting that Mr. Miller has done would basically set the standard to say that those vehicles would be permitted so long as they're able to be licensed and properly processed through the BMV. And then as long as you're eligible to drive them and you drive them according to the speed limit, there would be no conflict with the current
And
ordinance.
we're setting the parameters that they need to be at least 16 years old. They're only driven on streets and so we're setting some of the parameters that we want. The way the chief has, I'm sure, passed that information that would best serve us, our community. And this is the answer to that.
Well, and
but
It's
my
an
point
answer.
was-
It is.
An answer,
is-
yeah.
is-
My whole point is, don't put rules in that you don't have staff to enforce. I'm sorry, but I don't believe that we have the staff that can go around and enforce these rules. And we've done it before. And it's.
Well, the rule right now is they can't drive them on there at all.
Exactly.
Well,
that's
And
kind
all
of
we're
where
doing is
that's.
giving them the ability to do it some.
I think this ordinance would generalize two separate classifications of vehicles that the Ohio Revised Code keeps separate: golf carts and then motorized bicycles.
Can I jump onto that?
Yeah.
My son used to work on Brant Pike, and I live in the Forest Ridge neighborhood, and he would ride his pedal-powered bike to work and back. What this ordinance would say is that would be allowed, a human-powered bicycle would be allowed to travel that route, but a moped would not. And I find that to be a little absurd, especially given that I find that that's a little, I just find it absurd.
Well, we can, I guess this is a question out of sheer ignorance, but is there actually a distinction between a moped and an e-bike? And maybe that's something we go do some homework on.
I think we need more homework on
Yeah,
this.
and that's fair. And again, and I just want to be clear, I think part of the purpose of tonight is, again, just to put this question in front of you, because if there are strong opinions that the current code is fine and let's just not touch it, then that's the answer we need. If there are opportunities here to clean up the code, potentially eliminate some problems that we can't enforce, and at the same time make things a little bit clearer, then that's helpful too. So that's an excellent point and something we can go do some research on.
I don't want to belabor it. The Ohio Revised, it says motorized bicycle. That is the word that is used ad nauseum in 4511521. And I also think about 14 and 15 years old. That's what the Ohio Revised Code states. That is high school, sophomores and freshmen who are not yet able to obtain a driver's license, i.e. my husband's cousins, both 14, 15 years old, and they have to walk from the Valley Platte to Stebbins in the middle school.
But they can legally go to a BMV and get a moped license.
They could,
when they're 14 or
absolutely.
15.
And I see no problem with that. And if their mom is unable to take them to school, like that'd be like they don't like. I would love to be able to get them that. The e-bike, those things are expensive, but that's a case in point scenario. I'm sure there is like what I'm saying now is in a similar situation to dozens, if not hundreds, of kids in our city whose parents have scheduling problems with getting them to and from school, and if they had the means to get a scooter for their kid and they could operate it safely in the warmer months, that would relieve a burden on those families.
Well, electric scooters are a big thing now, and those aren't listed anywhere in any of these rules and regulations, so.
Let's get into a
Yeah,
hypothetical
the vehicles
debate about what's a
themselves are
scooter and a-
changing, and
Yes.
that was, well, and honestly, and that was another reason why I thought it was timely to bring this up. And so what I'm hearing is, just to kind of put a button in this, because I know we have a whole nother meeting to get to, is that, yes, it sounds like we have some consensus that this is something to look into. So let us kind of take your feedback here tonight and go do a little bit more homework and figure out how we unbutton some of this stuff in the current code and then button it back up in a way that makes sense for us here in Riverside. And then I'll bring it back to you at another work session.
I'm not opposed to rules. I'm just opposed to rules we do not have the manpower to enforce.
Right.
So people ignore it. I mean, that's the nature of the beast.
Okay, we got a couple other things here just to tick off real fast. And in fact, unless there are objections, I'll just do, item 2 here was the Right Point parking lot, and that was followed by a Glen Dean project update. I'll just take care of both of those pretty quickly, unless there are objections. The Right Point parking lot issue is just that, as you know, we do have long-term tenants in the buildings. We're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to position the buildings. We have a strategy in place to make some targeted capital investments in the buildings. Lot resurfacing and restriping is one of those elements. It's difficult to see the stripes where they are now, and there are enough cracks in the lot where we talked a lot about asset preservation earlier in this meeting. It's a good opportunity right now to come through and do another round of crack sealing and reseal the lots and then repaint them. I did ask Colliers to go get some quotes related to that. They were able to get 3 quotes, all of which were slightly under $40,000. So I've prepared a resolution for you for this evening. And the reason for, I suppose, the timeliness of this is that the asphalt plants will close sometime in October in all likelihood. So if we want to make this investment this year, we would need to make a decision fairly quickly. There is a slight wrinkle. After we produced the packet, the initial low bid, low estimate came back and revised their estimate and went much higher. And so that turned our recommendation into a different firm, but I'll address that in the next meeting. But I did want to just preview that with you before we talk about it next meeting as well, so. And then on the Glen Dean project, we did get some communication. Mr. Miller and I had a good conversation with Mr. Oakes and his attorney 2 weeks ago, and did finally receive some information from them this morning. We're working essentially on what amounts to a development agreement that touches on several items, including potentially selling one of our parcels so they can turn it into a catch basin, and then going back and forth about potentially TIF or CRA eligible public improvements that could be reimbursed. But our homework next is to actually run those numbers. And so I did want to let you know that I knew this had come up at a prior work session, just to let you know that conversation is ongoing and we're going to continue to do our homework. And when it's ready, I'll bring it to you. Those are the 2 updates I had on that front. And as far as do not knock legislation goes, I know we talked about this. Oh boy, I just muted myself. There we go, I'm back now, I think.
Josh, quick question.
Yeah.
Does the public service, fire, police have anything on the rest of this meeting or the next meeting?
That's an excellent question. I believe fire and police, yeah, if you guys, are you looking to excuse
Yeah,
personnel?
they've probably
Absolutely.
been here all morning, so I would assume if anyone
Yeah.
doesn't have anything.
Thanks, gents.
Thank you for all your hard work, Chief and Chief. Thank you so much.
We do have a few potentially service-related things, so. All right, let me pull up. So after we talked at a work session a couple of months ago, I think it was, about potential changes to the do not knock ordinance, as you'll recall, the initial thought was to move away from any kind of a do not solicit ordinance or list. Move away from a list, move away from permits, and move toward a system like some other cities use where you put a sticker on a window, a door, or what have you, and then that becomes the indicator for whether you're canvassing or selling, not to approach a particular residence. What I have for you this evening, and I'm happy to send this out, we won't ask you to vote on this tonight, but I'm happy to email you all a copy of this as well. But just to quickly run through, Mr. Miller's made some edits to the current section of code. The highlighted places are largely clarifications of existing text. But the bulk of the edits are actually down in this section, where this highlight is really the substantive portion, where we would do away with any kind of a permit or list requirement and say that nobody should be knocking at a door if they display the notice. And it should say something substantially to the effect of no soliciting or canvassing allowed per RCO, that would be Riverside City Ordinance, 711.23. And again, assuming that you all are comfortable moving forward in this direction, it would be my intention to identify some budget money, and we will print those stickers for folks. Stickers or clings, I know that's something that Katie's already been working on as well,
It is ready.
and they are ready to be printed.
A cricket is how much?
And we would provide those for free, of course, obviously, to residents as part of implementing this ordinance.
Katie wants a cricket.
I have one.
You have one?
The only
City
other.
wants to buy your cricket.
The only other point that I suppose is worth making at this juncture, and Mr. Miller, if you'd like to weigh in here too, that would be great, is just that the way the ordinance, this proposed ordinance is drafted, it would apply to canvassing activity as well as sales, peddlers, everything else. So if you, like me, if you have experienced solar companies coming to your door just to share ideas about solar panels on your house, yes, it would apply to that as well. So even if they aren't there ostensibly to sell you something that day, the act of canvassing to share that would still apply. And the stickers would be, I think, a little bit more enforceable for our officers as well too, because they could say, well, you saw the sticker on the door, and it's a little bit easier for them to issue warnings against that. Do you have any questions, concerns, or anything about?
How would it impact if you're trying to get your signatures for your petition to run for office?
Jim, I'll let you take that one.
Shall I jump in?
And that's fine. If the answer is, there probably won't be that many, so you only need 50 signatures, so.
Right. So that's a point I know, Councilmember Denning, we've talked about at previous discussions on this topic, and there's a intersection, of course, of First Amendment rights and homeowners' property rights to pick and choose who they allow on their property. So the language went away, but there's language that's left in the ordinance that indicates that certain provisions are not applicable to, it's called non-contact canvassing, so religious speech, political speech, those types of First Amendment protected speech. A lot of times flyers are left. That commercial speech, leaving an advertisement for a sale or a good or a service, the ordinance proposed language says that's not permitted if the no soliciting sign is present. In terms of non-contact canvassing, there's an exception to allow the distribution of literature that is for religious, charitable, otherwise First Amendment protected organizations, as well as the no soliciting signage on property does apply to canvassing. However, there's a protection for the exercise of First Amendment coming to a door to engage in political, religious, or otherwise protected speech. There's not going to be an arrest made for trespass for exercising speech that is protected under the United States Constitution. The stickers will provide a framework for law enforcement to determine when does that First Amendment speech start to infringe upon a property owner's trespass rights, because once someone is told, even if they're exercising legitimately protected speech, told don't come back, then they're not permitted on the property anymore, even to exercise First Amendment speech. They become a trespasser. So the whole point behind this proposed ordinance update, if you will, because it does a whole lot to Chapter 711, is it takes the administrative burden off the administration to keep a do not solicit list, to provide that to law enforcement, to collect the nominal, if any, fees that did exist in the ordinance as it stands. And we asked Chief and his staff to run reports about how many calls were coming in from residents complaining about folks knocking on their door. that had registered for the Do Not Solicit list. It's not always updated. There's a lot of red tape, so to speak, from the enforcement and the administration side. So this gives residents an empowerment to put a sticker on their door if they do not wish to be disturbed by a solicitor, vendor, peddler, canvasser. They can place that on their property. It covers all of the above with that small kind of carve out for the distribution of charitable, religious, and political literature that's not commercial in speech, but also does provide law enforcement a clear way to address a resident that calls complaining of this kind of activity, but also keeps language in that protects the First Amendment rights that are clearly established under the United States Supreme Court for protected First Amendment speech. Does that make sense?
So it's a balance.
The answer is you can go and knock on their door. You won't get arrested, but they may not sign your, and they may yell at you because they have the sticker, but.
Right.
But they're not gonna, the police aren't gonna arrest me for it. Okay.
Right.
Well, I was,
Got it.
and I understand how nothing ever happened in this council in the beginning. I'm getting very used to everything, people questioning why they are the way they are. But those rules are on the books because it was a very, very difficult situation in this city because we were inundated, because other cities don't allow it. So because they didn't allow it, it got dumped on Riverside. And that's why the rules are what they are. And you guys can decide to change it if you want, but it's like everything else. Nothing ever happened before in this city, and things happen for good reasons. And I'll rest my case.
In the Supreme Court case, if you want to research it, it's Lavelle versus the City of Griffin, Georgia. That explicitly stated exactly what Mr. Miller just said. So if you want to do some
No,
some light reading, that's where you can
I'm
find it.
good. I just want to make sure that some of our, and so if the
But I
Girl
think
Scouts come to their door.
that's the risk, right? Is
Right.
if you knock on the door and the sticker's there, you're not going to get a pleasant person
Right.
to talk to.
Right.
So, I mean, I think.
I wouldn't, yeah, if I see
Being-
the sticker,
being neighborly.
I'd go someplace else. I agree. I think I was on the council when we put the rules that exist in place, so I think this is just a modification of our existing rule to today's situation. So I think we should move forward with it, and
Well, we'll
They had to have a permit to solicit.
I-
And we're doing away with that.
right,
well,
And
it's,
that's- and
it's,
that's
but
wrong.
if they get caught with but just like everything else,
I'll rest my
they
case.
don't play by that rule anyway, so.
I
They-
think,
They
I
do
think
when I
the-
come to my door and I ask for their permit.
Well,
they
you
leave.
ask them about it, but then it's like if you had the yellow sticker, they'd move to the next.
Council
As,
Councilmember-
Basically
as
this-
someone who's done a lot of canvassing, I think as the person who's doing it, having that sticker benefits me as much as the homeowner.
Yes, and I don't have to,
Avoids a very
check
awkward
a
interaction.
list
Yeah.
to see if I'm supposed to be or not supposed to be at this address.
Yes.
Or did they get the number wrong when they typed the list?
I
you
was
know,
just going to offer
and-
that as somebody that thought I was on the do not solicit list, but I don't know that I actually was. To me, maybe another way of thinking about this is exactly your point, Councilmember Fry, which is that would be my way as a resident of politely letting anybody know, hey, if you knock on my door and you're here to either talk to me or sell me something, I'm probably not going to want to talk to you. So it's
Right.
kind of doing, whether you're a canvasser or a salesperson, trying to almost do them a favor to say, I'm not really receptive to that. As opposed to the current system where you have to pull a permit and then you have a list, but there's no visual indicator on the street of who's on that list. It's difficult for people to make that association
And
now.
I think the over-encompassing idea here is if you have a do not disturb sign or a no solicit sign on your door, common sense would tell you that if you're a political candidate protected by the First Amendment or someone who's trying to sell me a roof, that you probably shouldn't knock on this door. However, if common sense was that common, we wouldn't have jobs.
We
And
wouldn't be here.
we wouldn't need a Supreme Court. So
wouldn't be here.
So civics and the rule of law and governance
So,
is
anyway,
at full effect in why we need to pass this
Trying to get
ordinance.
them to come get a sticker. I'd like to see that happen.
But I still think there's merit to what we're doing. it's a need, and while we feel, I feel like it's very common that if you put a do not solicit sticker on your door, that's visible, people should avoid it, but we know that's not gonna happen, and we need to have the rules on our books, as silly as it is. But I don't know if there's any ambiguity left on this council about if the city should or should not move forward with this.
So-
Thank you, Josh.
No, I'll go ahead and bring it then, at least for a vote at probably our next meeting in October. And since it is an ordinance change, it will require 2 readings. So we'll have a couple opportunities at other regular business meetings to talk about it. And with that, that concludes the work session agenda. I have no further updates or comments, so we can move to council member comments at your discretion.
Well,
There was nothing on the Glen Dean
do you want to do council member
Only
comments?
that
or
we
you just
had
wanna do that at the
a
end?
conversation with the developer and it's on.
Okay, and so,
My bad.
do we want to, here's my question. You want to adjourn this, take 5 minutes for a break, and then?
That's what the agenda says.
Okay, so, we're going to adjourn. This meeting is adjourned. We'll be back at 7:10.
Okay, so now check, we're back. And it's 7:12, and I'll turn it over
Yes.
to the clerk this time because I've learned my
Yes.
lesson.
We'll go ahead, seeing now that the chair and vice chair, as per Robert's rules, are not present, I will call the meeting to order at 7:12 p.m.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And as at the work session, this is a separate meeting, so without the mayor and vice mayor here, as a legal point of order, I would advise council to put motions on the floor to appoint a presiding officer pro tem to preside over this business meeting this evening.
Move to Mike Denning.
Second.
We had a motion and a second. Any further discussion about the motion and second? Okay, all those in favor can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Presiding Officer Denning, it's yours.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Here?
Mr. Denning?
Here.
Ms. Fry?
Here.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Ms. Lomatch?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield? Mayor Williams?
Move to excuse.
Second.
We have a motion to excuse and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any additions or corrections to the agenda at this time?
Move to
Only,
approve.
whoops, only
Hold it,
one.
hold
You're
it.
good. Only one. Have to say this, is that we did change the substance of the resolution for item B6. That's the one for the asphalt paving
The paving.
that we discussed, because the name of the vendor is different. That's the
Move
only
to
change.
approve.
Hold on,
Just-
hold on, hold
Hold
on.
on.
I would also like to move petitions up to, on agenda items and non-agenda items at the same time. So that would be number 10, so that folks that are here aren't here forever, so we can get that done.
Second.
So we have a motion to,
I'll move to approve it.
Oh, wait, didn't you make a motion for it?
You're allowed to amend the agenda with
so,
as many
okay,
amendments.
so moved as amended.
Yes.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Technically, it'll be public comment on agenda items followed by, or not agenda, but to.
Yes.
Yes. We won't put them on the same line, though.
Right.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay,
Now
thank
we
you.
need to-
Was
Was that a motion to approve the amendment? Now do we have to approve?
No,
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 no, just
no,
approve the
you're-
amended
Amended
agenda.
motion.
Just approve the amended
Yeah.
agenda. Pledge of Allegiance. Zach, will you lead us in the pledge, please? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd also like to take a moment, I did this on Facebook, and I want you all to think about it, is what were you doing 23 years ago yesterday when the earth came crashing down on all of us? So I'd like to take a moment of silence in remembrance of 9/11. Thank you. And I'd also like to say, remember September 12th and how we all felt that day. None of us were red or blue. We were all purple. We were all Americans. We were all red, white, and blue. And we need to think about that and be more like that every day and less partisan. And I just wish Congress would listen to us and do the same thing. Okay, let's move on.
Aye,
Anybody else have anything? Okay. Minutes. At this time, you've had time to read the minutes for August 8th and August 15th.
aye. Move to accept.
Second.
A motion from Ms. Lomatch and a second from Mr. Joseph. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. If you have a petition, send it forward, and we will get to that point when we get to that point in the agenda. Liquor control, Mr. Manager.
Just two liquor-related items. One, new liquor license for El Gallo Cocina, that is just west of Woodman on Airway, kind of near Creekside and the Squad Auto Sales. So that's a new liquor license. And then a transfer for, from Saba One to Zena Operations at 4600 Old Troy. I believe that's the marathon that's at Old Troy and Needmore. The police department had no objections to either of these, so there's no action required unless you would like to object to either one. So we can
Doesn't take action.
No.
move right on.
Hearing no objections, move on.
Okay, let's move on. Comments on, do we have anything for
Public
comments
comment.
on agenda items?
We do not.
Okay, and so now we will go to non-agenda items.
We have two.
We have two, and the first up is Mr. Ziegler. Mr. Ziegler, you have 3 minutes. State your address and for the record, please.
Hello, my name is John Ziegler. My address is 4238 Blue Rock Road. I guess I get the 3 minutes like usual, so I apologize, and I want to thank all the council members for being here, doing your job. I get it, you know, that I apologize if I stepped on anybody's toes, because I don't feel like I get enough time to talk, so sometimes you know, we get forceful at some of the meetings we go to, like the planning commission, and I was on the charter review, and I felt like I had to say what I had to say. So whoever watched the meeting probably saw that I was slightly rude, and I spoke out of turn a little bit, but I had a lot to say, and I apologize to those guys for that. But I was worried about the representation, and so I got to talk about that a little bit. I don't know if you guys got to see the meeting at all, or, I never saw the minutes or the meeting, so. But what we got is, the charter review is something we're supposed to have, and so I guess it wasn't an official charter review, so the stuff that I had said doesn't even really exist in a way, so I think we should still have charter review, maybe even, I don't even know if they need to make up this last one. I don't know how that works, but I would be happy if what I wanted would be added to let the voters decide on. If we could have like districts or wards or something like that. And right now, we already have voting precincts. When I was running for council, I had to go get my 50 signatures, and I got them from my neighborhood where I live. And I think that's a good idea. That's the way it should be. I live in the Dayton School District, so there's nothing to do with, we don't have one school district here. Our neighborhood was promised one school district. It never happened. So a lot of people down there are a little, hoping stuff will happen still. We've had 30 years to fix it, and it hasn't happened yet. So we were trying to get some of the changes on that. And so I live in precinct letter O, and I think maybe someone lives in D. Do you vote on Spalding Road, anybody? So, okay. So that's our precincts over there. But what it's coming down to is the people in my neighborhood, they feel like without representation, there's another step we can take, and I don't want to have to do that. And they've all talked about wanting to go back to being township, and we spoke to other cities about you're allowed to be annexed by another city. So if they can't not get representation, I think that we're going to look at getting permission to be annexed by Kettering or the base or back to township or something. And that I don't want to happen, but, I wish the mayor was here today. But I think I've said enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dan Ryan, you're up. You got 3 minutes, bub.
3 minutes. Being from Boston, I talk
Take-
fast, so it
take
shouldn't be
your
a
time.
problem. So I came here today, I just wanted to speak to everybody to thank all the help for the volunteer fire hydrant painting project that we did. It's been 3 solid years, and we killed it. We painted over 592 is what we got out of 850. the city asked me 3 years ago if I would lead this project, and in the beginning, I thought it was going to turn into me and Mike painting all the hydrants, right? But I started posting it on Facebook, and people joined in like crazy. Amazing is look at the council right now. April Franklin, who's no longer on council, her and her husband, they were painted a whole bunch that first summer. Mike Denning and the JCs killed it with the, I don't know how many you guys did. I lost track of the amount. And then, of course, Brenda with the Girl Scouts. Those girls, we all worked around, what was it, Carol? No, not Carol.
St. Helens.
St. Helens area. I mean, we hit it hard. We got them done. That was a long day, right? But we did it. A lot of helped out nonprofit groups, Project Riverside, Tim Long and Frida Patterson. They helped. Frida did a whole neighborhood. We had Way of the Cross. Off-duty firefighters were contacting me. Hey, where do you want me to paint? I thought that was pretty cool for them to say that. So I gave them like main roads because most people didn't want to paint on Airway, right? That's a little scary. We had Brett, Battalion Chief Brett Wensler, sorry. He and I were in constant contact, getting me supplies. At one point, I felt like I was annoying him because we were running out of paint because we were working so hard on it. These two kids in my neighborhood, the very first year we did this, I wasn't even sure how to like organize something this big. Two kids in my neighborhood, Stevie and Jesse, they painted 30 hydrants that very first year, but their mom was texting me every couple days of what they did so I could keep track. It was just truly amazing how many people came out. An older lady from Huber Heights messaged me and said, I'd love to help paint, but I can't get off the ground. She has physical issues, she's older, so I got her a milk crate and a cushion. She came out we did 40 hydrants. This lady helped me with 40. She doesn't even live in Riverside. She just wanted to help. And Way of the Cross, they came out. So many college kids, Stebbins kids, so many people just came out to just wanted to help and make this great. And I talked to the county, and we're the only city in the county that can honestly say all our hydrants are painted. And I just wanted to stand here and thank everybody because it was such an amazing project for me to meet so many people. Literally over 100 people helped. In fact, the last picture I posted to the fire department was the first two kids who started going at it, and the last lady that helped me paint the last hydrant, which was behind Subway on Airway. So it's just truly amazing a feeling to just say that the community came out and did this awesome project. And there's so many more things we would love to do. Of course, Mr. City Manager, I'm going to be sending you emails like, find me a hole to dig. I want to dig it, There's just so many people that came out to help. And even ones that didn't actually physically come, people donated wire brushes. I would come home from work and find wire brushes on my porch. The owner of the Christie Club bought me 200 paintbrushes on Amazon, and just people that couldn't actually physically help just joined in other ways. And it just really shows that with a city that's kind of strapped for cash, we can honestly say that as a community we all helped together, and we really killed this project. So I just wanted to be quick on the speech and thank everybody so much in the community for helping out, and I'm looking forward to the next project. So the next thing we can do, I need a break. Give me a few weeks, right? It's been tough. I sold the car I used because it was older and I was just tired of looking at the paint all over it. Yeah, it was paint all over it. Handprints. Yeah. When you get a woman who came out with me, her and her kid, he got more paint in the inside of my car than he got in the hydrant. Right? But that's what you deal with. But it was truly an amazing experience all overall. There were people that I would deliver paint to, and then they would send me pictures. It was a lot of older people with their grandkids. It was just so many people joined, all ages, and it was really an amazing thing. When I first got this project, I didn't know what was going to happen, how it was going to work out. But people loved it, and I feel that we can do so many good things just by getting together. As I started community work 8-9 years ago, I was just walking around picking up trash, and I put it on Facebook. Hey, I'm going to go clean some trash up by the park. Anybody want to help? And then boom, people just jumped out. So I feel like there's a lot of people that don't, nobody came forward and say, hey, I want to go paint hydrants. But once the project was given to me and I started posting, hey, we're doing this, do you want to join in? People do join in. They do jump in. I think it's a good thing. I truly believe that we can do a lot of good things. So I just wanted to put it out there. Thank everybody in the community. I know it's on TV, right? And of course, this is my good side, right? You can see my good side. But yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to push that out, and we're looking forward to doing more in the future. So thanks for everyone that helped me
Dan,
out. Thanks a lot. That's awesome.
Dan, we want to thank you because it was truly a community project, not a city project. It was a community project.
Yes.
And that's important. And it takes leaders like you to initiate that action in order to get other people to get motivated. It takes a spark to start a fire. And your red hair is our spark, buddy. And we just want to thank you for initiating that action and calling the community together and moving us forward. So thank you.
Dan,
Thanks a lot.
I got a
Dan
question.
knows how much I love him, but I wish you'd have told me about the crate and the pillow. Because I can't get off the ground either.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that she wanted to help, and she loved it.
But they look great. They really do.
Thanks. And now our goal is, at this point, now that they're all done, I feel that we can basically top it off. So the worst ones will be like on main streets like Airway, Woodman, where they get hit with that salt in the winter. We can go back and catch those up easy. The ones, if you look at some of the pictures Lisa from the fire department was posting, some of them hadn't been paid in 10, 15 years. I mean, they were terrible. And now those ones in the smaller neighborhoods or the less traveled roads, those will last a lot longer. But now we'll be able to manage it where I don't have to paint solid. Unfortunately, this project did limit me from helping with some zoning code violations, people that we used to do work with. It bogged me down. Now we can manage it and can't stay on top of it. And that's my goal.
Zach, why did you start doing those?
The hydrants?
Or just, well, let me take a step back. You do more than the hydrants. The hydrants was just the big project that you've done, but you've been doing a lot of work with the city for a good amount of years. So why did you start?
So originally it was I had a girlfriend that we went to a friend's house for dinner, and the neighborhood looked real nice. And on our way home, we come down my street, and there's so much trash, something I never even paid attention to, just built up in the neighborhood, just all over the ground. And I decided to clean it up because I just wanted it to look good, right? And so I went out there, and I was picking up cereal boxes that you couldn't even read what they were. It was just old trash that blew up behind an old building. So I started doing it, and when I originally started picking up trash, like I said, when I posted it on Facebook, all of a sudden people started coming out of the woodworks. The news did a story on it, and I didn't even call them. And there was a woman in my neighborhood, Cindy, who really got me going. She said they used to do community work all the time back in the 80s. I've only been living here since 2006, so I didn't know all the history of everything. And with talking to her and then a few others, and next thing I know, I'm meeting pastors at Debbie's for lunch, and they got all these ideas, and it just I don't know, it just took off. And I truly love it now. My number one passion is my full-time job, and my second passion is my teaching job, my other job, and now this is number 3.
So your full-time job is?
I'm a machinist out at Wright Pat.
And then you teach kids?
And then I teach machining at Sinclair, and those two things are number 1 and 2, and then the community work is right up there with it. I love it. This project, I never had, and I just never could picture how great it went. I truly thought it was going to be, like I said, me and Mike out there in the rain painting hydrants, right, for 10 years. I could not believe how fast. One woman I forgot to mention, her father was a firefighter who was killed in the line of duty, and she and her daughter came out to help. And she was very passionate about it for just that reason. And then these Stebbins kids have some community hours that they need. They loved it. They absolutely loved it. It was just a really great thing to meet so many people. I'm here to stay. I love my job. I love my life, my house. I'm here to stay. I want to make it as good as I can.
So you essentially work for the military as a machinist. Then your part-time job is to teach kids a craft that you love.
Yep.
And then in the spare time, as limited as you have, you paint hydrants, clean up trash, and fix people's houses who can't afford to do so.
Yep, that's what we do. It's not just me.
From the
I might
bottom-
be people, and that's what people say to me all the time. Hey, you know, I go into Debbie's and have lunch, and they talk about, hey, how all those hydrants you're painting. Well, it's not just me. I'm the leader because Mark Carpenter asked me to take it on. It's not me. I'm one person. It's a million.
You're the most humble person I've ever met in my life.
Well, thanks.
And you'll never allow us to do it, Dan, but you are the type of person that cities name streets after.
No, I don't.
You, like, I'm not kidding, when I will remember this day, September 12th, 2024, and I will show my kids, that's what you want to be when you grow up. You want to have that civic mindedness. What we do here is tertiary to the stuff that you do for the community. You are, like, I cannot speak enough highly good words about you. You are an asset to the community, and words fail to say how much I know this council is grateful for all the things that you do for us.
I definitely appreciate the kind words. I truly do believe I'm doing the Lord's work, and I maybe, like Mike said, I'm a spark, right? But that fire was the community. It really was. So,
Thank you, Dan.
hey, thanks a lot.
Well, we love Dan.
Thank you, Dan. And we will
We're
be in
not
touch.
done.
Yes.
We will
We're
be
not
in touch.
done.
I'm not that.
I
We're-
said, we are not done.
Okay.
Can I first speak to the first
Go ahead.
presenter? Yeah. Because you spoke about schools and why Blue Rock is not in the school district. As I say, I have been on a committee that has gone before the State Board of Education when we became a city to try to get one school district from 5. That is not controlled by the legislature, it's not controlled by the governor, it's controlled by the State Board of Education. And the reason that they will not approve moving other school districts to ours, it speaks to money. Every child attending a school building relates to dollars. The city of Dayton, the city of Beaver Creek, the city of Fairborn, the city of Huber Heights, the city of Dayton, none of them want to lose a child. And thus, the state school board will not, I don't like to hear you say they feel like they don't belong to the city. I believe we provide a lot of services to the area that you live in, and I'm in that part of the city a lot. And so it bothers me to hear you say that you don't think you belong because you're not in the city school district. And if your neighbors feel that way, I'm sorry. But efforts have been made by this organization to try to rectify the school situation, and it's not in our control. And thank you for caring.
Anybody else have comments? All right, moving on. New business, Mr. Manager.
New business, the first ordinance, this is a first reading, ordinance 24-0-854, which is the third quarter supplemental appropriations ordinance, which was described in your packet. Should this pass this evening, we'll have a second reading in October.
Move to approve.
Second?
We have a motion to approve from Mr.
The-
Joseph and hold on, and a second. Now we'll ask the clerk to read the ordinance by title only.
Ordinance number 240854, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Riverside, state of Ohio, for the period January 1 through December 31st, 2024.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call roll?
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Ms. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Lomach?
Yes.
Mr. Denny?
Yes. Motion passes. Mr. Manager, resolutions.
First resolution, 2975, is a surplus resolution. The list is in your packet of surplus items. Many of these items are actually in the spare, if you will, conference room on this side of the office. There are several antiquated computers that we are trying to remove as part of our computer replacement for this year. and old materials that we otherwise need to free up some space in the office.
There's a Palm Pilot back there.
A Palm Pilot. I
Refurbished.
thought those belonged in a museum.
Hey, it might catch a hefty price on Gov Deals.
Be careful who you put
Okay.
in a museum.
I'll move to approve.
Need a second?
There are days I think I'm being put in a museum, so.
Motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Brown. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 24R2976, Mr. Manager.
Next resolution is the annual housekeeping authorization for us to purchase some road salt for this winter. Before she departed for the evening, I believe Ms. Moore said our bids were very competitive, and we're very happy with the price.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 24R2977, Mr. Manager.
This resolution is additional grant funding that we were awarded. It actually, I believe, provides matching funds on another grant that we got that will allow us to remove, I think it's up to 6 structures in the city, so it just reduces our out-of-pocket costs, and we recommend that you accept this grant.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 24R2978, Mr. Manager.
This is a resolution that renames the contingency reserve fund to the reserve balance account fund. And Ms. Baker, that's an auditor's recommendation, correct? Yes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution R24R2979, Mr. Manager.
I believe this is the auditor's recommended adjustment to true up the general fund balance against our books. Correct.
And this is black rather than red, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And
It's
should have
the
been
best
done-
kind of adjustment.
This is a positive
Right.
adjustment.
And should have been done a long time ago. All praise to Kim.
Well, anyway, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 24R2980, Mr. Manager.
This is the resolution that we discussed at the beginning of this meeting and at the prior work session. The appropriate vendor moved instead of Hauk to Quality Blacktopping out of Cincinnati. Again, the not-to-exceed amount is still $40,000, so no change to the amount, just the vendor.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We already did that part. Mr. Manager, your report.
Just a couple quick items. First, I do, just to tack on to the resolution that we just passed involving the true-up, it made me think, Kim came to my office earlier this week and said that our bank reconciliations took how long? Go ahead and
26 minutes.
So big kudos to Kim and her team.
Right, I was going to say that is definitely not just me. Michelle Elliott, my finance assistant, she has rocked it out since it's just the two of us. And having a reconciliation that takes less than a half an hour, that means that every single entry that was put into our accounting software for the past 5 weeks was dead on. I didn't have to adjust anything. It was night and day from my very first reconciliation here. I can remember my first one I tried to tackle here. I actually worked for someone else, not the city of Riverside, and it took me weeks, I will just say, just to get what you guys had as a reconciliation to match what I needed in the accounting software. So to me, that speaks a lot to the people that we're putting in the right places. As Josh will say, we need the right people in the right places, and he's a big part of why we're able to do that, and you guys are an even bigger part of that, and so we do appreciate the decisions that have been being made.
You also need the right tools to do the job.
Yes.
This is correct, and that's another reason, Councilmember Denning, why, just to tack onto a point you made earlier, when we talk about assets and software, the decisions that you all made a couple of years ago when I was really fresh and new here set us up to be this successful. So sometimes it takes a couple of years, but we're laying the right bricks in the right places to really move the place forward, so.
And we're also getting interest in our bank accounts now.
This is
Yeah,
true, we also
that's-
make interest.
I was going to ask about that. How's our interest doing?
Star Ohio made $47,000 last month.
Now, I will say, we will see what the Fed does later this year and how that might impact our budget for next year, but we're all along for that ride. But having said that, our books, our assets are invested in the proper places to actually give us a return,
Well,
which
even
is
if you
not
said it
something they
was
do.
only $20,000 a month
Right, I
for
mean,
12 months, that's $250,000 that we've made in interest, and we're talking a lot more than that,
That's
so.
a 47,000% increase than what we've had before, right?
Yep.
So we will
anyway,
continue to keep an eye on that.
thank you, and keep up the good work.
Just two other quick things. First is next week, I will be at Roar Park along with Councilmember Lomatch and some other folks from our police department and Mr. Wien from Mad River Local Schools. We'll actually be at Way of the Cross Church, which is at 612 Beatrice on Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock. We will do a little bit of a presentation about education, public education, about levy-related items. I also have sort of a small group exercise for residents in the neighborhood up there, just to get some feedback on what they'd like to see in Roar Park, and how the community can come together to help be good stewards of the park and those sorts of things as well. The meeting should end by about 7:30 p.m., but anybody is welcome to the meeting, of course, but we will have that little activity as well for folks to weigh in on the park itself. And similarly, the Riverside Chamber is hosting an event on September 25th. This is at Community United Methodist. That's at 339 Meyer. That's an informational event also about levy items. I believe the chamber has invited the city, which will be there, the schools, Five Rivers Metro Parks, and the library. So there will be a lot of.
And the Board of Elections.
Okay, yes, that's correct. Thank you. And the BOE. So a lot of information will come out at that meeting. And I know that there are also conversations happening about other meetings happening at the Burkhart Library in October, but I don't have dates for those yet. So we are doing a push to get some in-person education out there. Keep your eye on your mailboxes. There will be another newsletter coming in October, and maybe a couple other outreach efforts that Ms. Llewellyn and I are working on as well. So we're doing our part to get the education and the word out, and if folks have questions, they can always reach out. And that's all I have.
All right.
Yes, I hope that you can work it in your schedule to those. And I do need to thank Dan and Frida, because I reached out to them as well as staff members, and to try to have an event to interact with residents in that particular part of the city, to give them an opportunity to talk about the advantages to, and get the information they need to make a decision about the levies that are on. I'm concerned that we need to be seeing a little more information on some of the issues in our city. And one of those that I'd like to bring up and for future consideration of this council is I've spoken with the superintendent and I've spoken with the city manager when we look at budget, that we consider a second SRO in our school district, that Nick could be solely at the high school. I have watched him in several current events in the last 2 months. How many of the children know him, talk to him, spend time with him? I don't believe that we are fair to not consider a second SRO, and the superintendent is in favor for our other buildings, so that Nick can consider this being at the high school. I understand that it's a budget issue. However, I don't believe a price of a child's life has a price. And I think that when we face our new budget, and there are monies that we can apply for out there that could subsidize some of that program. The other thing I would like to mention is Clancy's, which is a mainstay resident restaurant in this city. It's been there for a long time. It's much loved. The food's wonderful. However, Saturday is his last day of business. And if you want to go, you better go about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because lunchtime and dinner time it's always been a long time to get food, but now it's everybody wants a last shot at getting wings or something. But Randy has been a mainstay in this community and a supporter of the city for a long time. and talked to him yesterday, and he's looking forward to retirement. And I'm sure, I believe the mayor talked about how he started his first working career at Clancy's. So I'm sure that in the future, the city maybe can recognize him as well as Dan for the things that he's done. And I'd also like to suggest that it's been a long time since this council's had a workshop. And I think that we need to try to find time to sit in a room and talk about where we're going as a city. Thank you.
Oh,
Mr. Brown.
The only question I have is for Josh. Has there been any information or advancements on the Black Barn pickleball project?
As far as I'm aware, that project is proceeding as expected, and I believe they are currently supposed to go to Planning Commission in October.
Okay.
So,
Super.
Groundbreaking
People are
shortly.
excited.
Yeah, they are.
People are excited.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Zach?
Nothing.
So September is Suicide Awareness Month. It's something I like to call attention to. It's something that it's just always been something difficult to really grapple with and talk about. But it's important that we do. I recently read a list of myths about suicide, and one of the parts that I remember is that years ago, we used to try not to talk about suicide. If something happened in the school, we tried not to report on it in the news, for fear that there would be a rash of suicides in the community. They've learned that that's not true, and to talk about it is to kind of take the air out of the sails. And so I encourage everyone to just really take a moment. Talk to your loved ones. And the second thing that I don't think a lot of people understand, I know I didn't understand it when I was faced with it, is that depression can look very different in different people. And I always thought of it as like, it looked like Eeyore. It's just sad, right? But, for boys, it can look like anger. And being very hot-headed, and at a time where we are really worried about the safety of our schools, and we have these incidents of school shootings, a lot of times there are signs that they are dealing with something, and I would like to propose that there are signs of depression in our high schools, and that we are not recognizing because we just don't know what we're looking for. So I would encourage everyone to just really learn about the signs, and look around you and reach out to the members of your family and the members of your community. A second thing, I just want to take a moment to say a kind word about our neighbor Ohio community, Springfield. They've been through a lot lately, with some very harmful conspiracy theories circulating in the news. I took some time to watch their city commission meeting on Tuesday,
I did too.
and you could not find a better example of civility and decorum and grace than the members of that community, coming from all different backgrounds, with all different very real struggles that they are grappling with, but they are grappling with them in good faith, and they are listening to each other, and they are being a true community. So I just want to take a moment to say good job, Springfield, and don't believe all the hateful things that you hear about.
I think I said most of my stuff at the beginning of the meeting, but I would like to say, be purple. Everybody be purple. Don't be red, don't be blue. We are our own community. And Zach has said this before, he might be red or he might be blue and I might be the opposite, but there's so little difference between the way we think about things. And our community, our city is our focus. And we both believe that this is the best place to be, and we do the best job we can to make things happen. So go out and participate in your community, and don't worry about whether your neighbor's red or blue. Let's just all be purple and move forward.
Mike, could I say thank you to you and the JCs for the flags? Every time there's an event, there's an occasion, I see more and more flags. And I would encourage anyone who's not participating to please go to the JCs online and sign up for, what's it called?
Flags for Freedom.
Yeah. So you can do it at $50 a year, and they deliver, they pick up. So, and along with suicide, 988 is the
right.
magic number. We've all had personal experiences, and recently I have an attempt. So I would appreciate everyone taking time, as Brenda has suggested. And 988 is the magic number to call.
Thank you.
Is there another blood drive in the near future?
We do have one at the end of the month, so we won't have a meeting before then. Thank you.
So would you like to tell us the date?
I'm not prepared. Is it the 30th?
Yeah, I believe so.
I believe it's September 30th. It's 3 to 6, I believe. You can double check by going to donortime.com and searching on the city of Riverside. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
All right.
Mike, if I could say one last thing, if you wouldn't mind.
Go ahead.
Just to kind of go along with your "we're all purple" comment. I read regarding 9/11, like a plaque, and if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to recite
ahead.
what it says. And it says, "I miss 9/12. I would never ever want another 9/11, but I miss the America of 9/12. Stores ran out of flags to sell because they were being flown everywhere. People were Americans before they were upper or lower class, Jewish or Christian, Republican or Democrat. We hugged people without caring if they ate at Chick-fil-A or wore Nikes. On 9/12, what mattered more was what united us than what divided us."
Exactly.
That I posted that.
And with that, we will adjourn.
7:50.